Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Faja, and we're back again today with a YouTube tutorial. It's been a little while, but we're gonna go through this track called "All My Love" that I made out on Jester's label group chat. We're gonna go through all the pieces of it, what I think I did right, but also we're gonna go through some things that I think I did wrong, where I think can really help improve your mix. So I actually lost my tripod, by the way, so please ignore the weird camera angle that we're gonna have. Let's get into it. All right, so by now I'm going to assume that you've already listened to the song, hopefully. So we're just going to go through it element to element. We're going to start off with the drums since that's like the most important part of the song, probably. So we got this techno kick. I got it from like a hyper techno kick pack. Just a little bit of kick tweak, which I do on pretty much all of my kicks. A touch of transient shaper. And then I boosted the highs a little bit. So you're going to hear here. So it just gave it this like nice kind of texture and sharpness that helps it punch through the mix. Next, we're going to go through the hats. Pretty simple, OTT, a little bit of transient shaper. Now, there's something important here that I want to touch on because this is a mistake I was doing in my mixes for a while. And then after talking to my friend Slotin, who's like a really dope mixing mastering engineer, he told me to, you got to be careful when you do steep cuts, which I've mentioned in previous videos. But the other thing too is that you want to be careful about using zero latency when you're doing EQ. So you'll see the bottom here on a fab filter, zero latency. What I would do now, if I'm doing these sharp cuts especially, use linear phase. To be honest, I don't know the technical reason about why this works, but when you're doing steep cuts, it kind of like eliminates a little bit of the resonant frequencies or something that come through from doing it and kind of clean up your sound a bit more. But I'm going to show you what else I would do aside from just linear phase had I been making this song today. What I would have also done is probably turn on 12 dB cut and then maybe move it over here. So let's A-B it. Okay, it sounds like that. Move it up. It's actually a subtle difference, but it is a little bit cleaner. And I'm actually reducing a little bit of like unnecessary top end that was there before. It's very subtle, and you might not notice at first, but if you do this across each channel, across your entire mix, you're gonna notice a big difference. So all these new songs that I'm working on right now that are not really coming out until next year, they actually sound, I think, cleaner and a little bit louder and stuff because I applied this technique. So give it a shot. Be sure to use linear phase and use less steep cuts when possible. Next, we're going to go to the clap. So pretty simple. OTT, transient shaper, a little bit of boosting with PsyQ. PsyQs are very good with boosting highs. Again, you should probably use linear phase and be careful about the steep cuts. I would not EQ my claps like this today. It actually just sounds kind of gritty and sharp. And these days I'm actually messing more with like doing things a little bit fuller. Just like bringing a bit more of the body in and just having things layered nicely. So I would not EQ it like this had I been doing it today. Okay. Next, we're going to move to the bass line. That's obviously quite important. So it's a pretty simple patch. It's like a Creed's kind of push-up emulation. Yeah, it's like a sine wave. You can look at the processing and the matrix here. It's nothing very complicated. And then on the channel, it's kind of a very similar chain to what I do with everything. It's just like layers of saturation, essentially. OTT to tighten it, Oxford inflator, decapitator distortion, which is nice analog kind of distortion. The sub filter, which I've talked about in previous videos, where I boost the root note of the key that the track is playing in using the key to frequency chart, which you can reference if you check online. Then PsyQ, just boost a little bit of bass, a little bit highs, very subtle LFO tool. And it is pretty much just kind of carving out the tail of it to make sure it doesn't bleed into the kick. Next, we're going to go to, let's do the pad sub out. Very simple. It's a Spire patch that I think sounds great. I barely did any processing on it, just OTT to tighten things up. Sometimes your sounds don't really need much. You just need a little bit of OTT just to make it pop. OTT is great for that. Now, I barely EQ'd this, to be honest. I probably would have touched it a bit more, but I didn't, so it's whatever. All right, next we're gonna go to how about let's do some of the risers and builds, and I'm gonna show you guys what I probably would have done today had I made this track. So, we got some a riser, a snare build, and white noise build, or like a clean sweep. I also actually have a what's it called? I also have Endless Smile going on a couple of the elements to turn those into risers. I like using Endless Smile a lot because instead of adding like a riser that might sound kind of separate from the track, you instead get this like natural build with the elements that you're using. So it's good for that. Now, I actually don't really use white noise sweeps anymore because I find they sound a little bit dirty sometimes. And instead, I just been using like snare builds and these like very clean risers. It ends up kind of freeing up your mix for other elements to come in the build. I'll put like crashes like this, or vocals or something. Now in all of these elements, again, my EQ is kind of not great. No, it's fine, but it's not how I would do it today. So again, linear phase, maybe less steep cuts. Same with on the snare build. And then here I just did like a little bit OTT and transient shaper to make it cut through the mix a bit more. Next, we're going to go through, how about this ARP little pad here? So it's just adding a harmony into that second half of the drop. It's nothing crazy really. Similar processing and everything. Probably could have EQ'd it differently again. Got OTT on it, and soothe. And lastly, we're going to move on to the lead, which is, of course, really important. So that is a Nexus lead, and I'm going to show you guys how I would have made it better. Okay, well, first, we're going to go through the chain that it's got. So it's got kind of Camel Crusher, or sorry, not Camel Crusher. It's soft tube distortion or saturation. It just, I don't know why the name's like that, actually. Sound Goodizer. I use that sometimes here and there. It works, but not always. But when it works, it's nice. Saturn, well, it's not actually Saturn though. Another name, screw up. It's actually Oxford Inflator. OTT. So again, it's just layers of saturation, distortion, and stuff. Another Oxford Inflator for whatever reason. Now, here's what I would have done to make it better. So you're gonna see, obviously, like I said, there's like these steep cuts and stuff. Linear phase is off, so let's hear that sound first. Okay, so that's what it sounds like. So what I would have done had I made it today is linear phase. I would have changed this cut to 12 dB, and then I would have cut higher, probably to like 15,000 or something around there. It actually already sounds cleaner. And you got rid of this unnecessary kind of buzz at the top that, for one, might hurt ears, but it frees up room for the mix and master. And that area was probably already being occupied a little bit by the frequencies from like the vocals, the kick, and then also it's just you don't necessarily need some of that top end. You can carve it a bit more, and it's going to be fine. Lastly, we'll go over maybe just some of like the effects kind of going on, like the crashes and stuff. So very simple, but again, reapply EQ if you can. Try to do less steep cuts. The thing I'm learning that recently is like less is more. So try to draw back how much you're doing with your EQs. Like if you have to EQ a sound a ton, you're probably not using the right sound. Try to find stuff that sits nicely in the mix without you having to do so much. I think that's the best way to go, in my personal opinion. And you're going to notice the same thing on this sound too. Probably did, see more steep cuts and stuff. Just try to minimize how much you're actually doing, and it's going to make your mixes sound a lot cleaner, fatter, just overall better. So I think that pretty much covers it all. I just thought I would just do a quick walkthrough to show you guys what I did on this, and also to show you the things I did wrong, because I think this new change that I'm doing in my EQs is actually helping quite a bit with the newest tracks I'm working on. I mean, to the average person, they probably won't notice, but for producers and people that really pay attention to the details, you're going to notice it. So give it a shot in your mix and let me know how it goes. you want me to cover anything else in the next videos, be sure to ask in the comments, rate, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and I will see you next time.